The Supreme Court decided each state should decide their own policies on if a woman can get an abortion. But now North Carolina's laws on how long a woman can get an abortion might be headed back to the courtroom. We've got one of the key players in the case here live to take your questions.
And monkeypox is in the triad. It's very rarely a deadly disease, but the pox are gross, and there's two other big side effects you'll want to avoid. So we asked the experts how you can stay safe.
Should we be worried about shaking a stranger's hand when you meet them for the first time?
Let's dig into it. The abortion debate is now in the hands of state lawmakers after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The federal protection for abortion rights ended with that decision, meaning each state can decide its own abortion rules.
That's right. And right now, abortion is legal in the state of North Carolina. It can be performed up to a viability of the fetus, and normally that's around 23 weeks. But Republican leaders want to shorten that time frame. The leaders at the General Assembly sent a letter to Attorney General Josh Stein asking him to push in court for reinstating an old North Carolina law. It banned abortions after 20 weeks. But a federal judge had struck down that law, citing Roe v. Wade. Now that Roe v. Wade is no more, it would take a federal judge to reinstate our 20-week ban. So today we've got the Attorney General here answering your questions about abortion and really all kinds of things. So AG Stein, let's first and foremost talk about that. Let's talk about that 20-week limit and where do you stand with that? And do you expect Republicans to take another action?
Well, Tanya, it's a pleasure to be with you. The Supreme Court obviously upended the entire settled expectations of women across this country when they overturned Roe v. Wade in this most recent Dobbs decision. And essentially, they took away from millions, tens of millions of women in this country the right to make their own reproductive decisions and instead handed it off to politicians, which have banned it in a number of states. Now, North Carolina does not have a ban on abortions. Our state law permits abortions up to 20 weeks. And beyond that, if the woman's life or health is in jeopardy. So the one thing that women in North Carolina need to know is even after Dobbs, you clearly have a statutory right. Now, there is a federal court injunction against the 20-week ban because under the old precedent, it was through 23 or 24 weeks. And that issue, my lawyers are looking at. The judge has asked for comments by the state, by the parties, about whether that injunction remains viable or in effect. And they're looking at that as we speak.
All right, so a lot of people want to know kind of a timetable, if anything, like how long do you think it could be before we saw any potential change in abortion laws, if there's going to be any?
Sure. In terms of the court revisiting the injunction that it issued against the North Carolina law before, that I think is going to happen within the next month. The judge asked last week for parties to comment within 30 days. So that injunction will be resolved relatively quickly. If the court gets rid of the injunction, state law, as I said, is very, very clear that women have a legal right to make that decision for themselves in consultation with a doctor. They do not need to have a politician make the decision for them. Now, here's the thing, is there are a lot of politicians out there who want to take that right away from women here in North Carolina. And so what I urge everybody out there, if this is an issue that matters to you, ask your candidate who's running for state house or state senate what they believe should happen, because the next legislature can pass a new law. They can ban abortions even in the case of rape and incest. And we are seeing that happening across this country. So who you elect to the General Assembly in the state house or state senate will determine this question going forward.
Okay. All right. This is one of the many things that the AG's office, has the umbrella over. The AG tackles things like loan forgiveness and the DNA collection law and e-cigarettes and opioids and many other things. So we're going to dig into these in the meantime. We want you to be able to text in your question because he's here until 5:45. So text us your question, 336-379-5775. Remember that your question is anonymous. Hey, something that I saw your office talk about this week is door-to-door scams. Let's talk about that.
Well, it happens a lot in summertime. And what these door-to-door scammers will do is they'll come knock on your door and say, hey, we just happen to be in the neighborhood working on one of your neighbor's paved driveways, or working on your neighbor's roof. Do you want us to repave your driveway? Do you want us to take a look at your roof to see if there's a problem? I mean, we actually have stories, instances where people went on the roof to inspect the roof and used an axe to create a hole in the roof in order to tell the homeowner they needed it to be repaired. So oftentimes these door-to-door salespeople are scammers. They either don't do the work or they do a shoddy job. So we have a basic advice for homeowners. If you want work done, identify what you want to get done. Do you want your driveway repaved? Do you need a new roof? Do you need your house painted? And if the answer to those questions are yes, then go out and find companies, local companies that have a good reputation, get 2 or 3 quotes about what it would cost to do the work, choose the one that works best, make sure that that contract is reduced to writing so you know exactly what the terms are and what your payment obligations are. And I suggest that you make sure that you do not have to make full payment until the work is done to your satisfaction. A lot of times we will get complaints from people who have spent the money because the contractor demanded it, and then the contractor either goes away, fails to complete the job, or does a poor job, and they can't get them to fix it.
That's right. And especially when they laid out all the cash, it's really hard to get cash back from somebody. So you want to do another form of payment and never pay in full up front. Okay. Good words of wisdom there. All right, let's talk about the sexual assault kits. We've had a backlog for a really long time. You've been working on that. Today, there's been kind of a confirmation that more than 1,100 of those kits have been tested.
Yeah, we are making diligent progress on this. Basically, suffering a sexual assault is about the worst thing that ever happens to a human being. And then to willingly deliver that evidence, go through an invasive examination, deliver the evidence to law enforcement so that they can do the DNA and hopefully find the perpetrator. We owe it to those people to do everything in our power to test the evidence, upload it to the national database, see if there's a hit against another perpetrator, and then make an arrest and prosecute that person. And we are making more progress and more progress every day. The state of North Carolina is much further along and in a much better position today than we were 2, 3, or 4 years ago. Today, we announced that last year we had a record number of hits to this database. And second, we announced a new dashboard, a website that people can go to see exactly how many kits occur in a district, how many have been sent off for testing, how many hits were there against the database, and how many arrests have been made. And all of this information is really important so that the public, particularly victims, can have confidence that we're doing everything in our power to deliver justice for them.
Yeah, and it gives it just a bit more transparency for everyone to kind of know really what is going on, because usually it's just sent away and then you don't hear anything about it. So this is a big milestone. What do you think this means for the sexual assault victims and for law enforcement?
Well, we actually have 2 databases. One that's been in operation for a little while is a tracking system, so that if a person experiences a sexual assault and produces evidence in a kit, they get a tracking number so they can follow that kit along the course of the process, so they know exactly where it is and what the status is. What we're announcing today is, instead of an individual, it's in aggregate. How many kits are there in Guilford County? How many are in Greensboro? How many hits have there been statewide? You can break it down any which way to learn exactly what progress we're making. And the really great thing is, Tanya, is we are making progress. And in the process, we are making arrests, and they're solving cases, and dangerous people, rapists, are being put behind bars. Victims are getting justice, and the public is safer as a result.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break on that. We're going to talk about a few other topics when we come back. We're talking about, someone's asking about tree trimming, someone's talking about loan forgiveness. We're going to talk about both of those when we come back, right after this break.